Yes. Hi, welcome back to my reading room. I am Isabel, and today we're talking about Lottie Hazell's debut novel, Piglet. Piglet follows the wedding preparation of Kit and Piglet, who are the perfect couple. They move to their perfect home. They are amazing hosts. They own an orange Le Creuset. You get the whole picture. Contrary to her disgusting childhood nickname, everything in Piglet is perfect, clean, composed, poised, elegant, and highly premeditated. She works editing cookbooks, she goes to intense workouts, and she still has the time to make every meal from scratch. Think of a Nara Smith. However, everything comes crumbling down when her soon to be husband, Kit, shatters the facade that has been their perfect life by revealing a secret. Dun dun dun. And don't get excited, we don't know what it is. What I liked the most about this novel was its attention to detail. The narrative voice grows velvety and rich the moment food comes into the picture. From going grocery shopping, meal planning, chopping, serving the dish, everything Piglet prepares is delicious, and that deliciousness translates to the writing. If you are like me and you enjoy reading this type of descriptions about food and you love cooking, this might be a great read for you. It was actually very enjoyable for me. And if you would like to go more into detail with me, continue watching the video. And if not, and you don't like to know anything more, you don't want any spoilers on themes and what worked and what didn't work in the novel, please exit the video right now. But actually don't stay. We're gonna have a good talk. I'm gonna try to stay away from big plot spoilers, so come along. As I said, the most delicious elements of the novel is what I would like to call the art of restraint, which is evident in the protagonist Piglet, since her narrative arc is a balance between restraint and indulgence. First, let's talk about her narrative arc. An important aspect about her arc and her relationship with Kid is the conflict of class dynamics between the couple. Piglet is from a working class environment, which brings her a level of embarrassing over her family and her not natural customs. She has not been brought up in the same way that Kid has, that makes his acting effortless, even though we see that he's also heavily preoccupied with appearances. And that's why she attempts to rise above this upbringing and to project this image of natural, effortless refinement. And this is evident too in how privy we are to all of the mental gymnastics that Piglet goes on a regular day, from how she's gonna serve her food, what she's gonna be wearing, and in what way she's going to accept a compliment. She also tries to emulate her soon to be mother in law, which is very telling on what type of relationship she has with her own family and how she wants to be accepted into this world by modeling herself after the other prominent female figure in her fiance's life. Funny enough, both families, hers and her partner's, impose this idea of restraint in Piglet. Her family shows restraint by not affording or even wanting to have luxuries. This is part of their distancing. For her family, Piglet's greed, not ambition, greed, is a negative part of her character, even when it has brought her success. And that is why she gets ridiculized and cannot shake the nickname Piglet, which, as I said before, I find completely disgusting. Do not imitate. Since I find it is a way for her family to ridiculize her and to kind of keep her in her place, even in an unconscious way. I saw another reader complain of why can't just Piglet take agency and tell people to stop calling her by this nickname? Why has she taken into her adult life? But the way I see it, and speaking from a former fat girl myself, the wounds of childhood in that regards often lead you to a path and a mindset of, I'm going to prove everyone wrong, which is what I think is happening to Piglet. Because if an adult person that doesn't know her name, doesn't know her from childhood or anything, would see her on the street, they wouldn't understand or even expect her nickname to be Piglet, since the nickname seems out of place and even funny because it's a clash. It's like calling a very tall person shorty because they're super tall. So it creates this humoristic tone to it, which is something that I also talked about in my review from The Summer I Turned Pretty, since the Isabel there is called Belly. And I think that it only works since she is so athletic and obviously doesn't have a big belly. Otherwise, it would seem as a cruel nickname. But Piglet's nickname does stem from cruelty. And that is something that she tries to go against by being the opposite of a pig, which is another very telling aspect that we have since the first chapter of the novel, is that the only person that doesn't call her Piglet is her actual only true friend. Piglet's narrative arc is almost voyeuristic for the audience, that being the people they observe her lose control throughout the novel, and to the readers, but not quite. Sadly, every day we are bombarded with stories of women going crazy, of women being unhinged and going on these spirals towards madness. And I say sadly because that means that we haven't improved the conditions of women to be free, and that's why they snap. And we see this over and over in media, but there hasn't actually been a change, and that's why we keep having these stories. And I don't say sadly because it's a sad topic, because it's a real topic that should be studied but should also be taken seriously, etc. And what makes it also sad is that for us as an audience, we have created a layer of detachment from this, that almost no people get surprised anymore by it. We don't have this estrangement to it that should generate in us. And that's why I feel that some of the reviews of Piglet is like, well, it's not that impressive because there are no very high stakes. But I would like to take us back, not to the plot, but how the plot is delivered to us, and that is the narrative voice and style. The narrative voice actually matches the main character's arc, which I find is very good, very well done, and the most brilliant part about this novel. The narrative voice often shows restraint. It is evidenced by not giving us kids' secret, for example. We are not privy to this information. We just know that other people know and their reactions, but we don't have the information. Or how Piglet's name is revealed just at the end, and I honestly missed it. I was looking back on the book because I read this back in August and I was thinking about it still, but I couldn't remember her actual name, which is so soul crushing because I hate the nickname, but the name didn't stuck with me so much because of how much it is taken away from us, how the narrative voice is gatekeeping the name and is forcing us to think of her as Piglet. However, the restraint is only lost when we talk about food, which is also mirrored in Piglet because her restraint is lost when food comes in. Even before she goes a bit more on a binge eating spree throughout London, from the beginning, before she knows the secret, we also see her lose control the moment that she's cooking, the moment that she is interacting with food. And that's why it makes the book so delicious to read, because we go in this indulgence towards food, and then when we move to a different scene, we're starving for that. We're starving for that marvelous, delicious, luscious writing. So there is a sense of loss when we go back to the regular life of these people, because we want more of the deliciousness. We want to be satisfied, and we want to keep reading with the hopes that we're going to find another scene like that. And that doesn't mean that Lottie Hazell doesn't know how to write a whole book like that. And it doesn't mean that the parts where this right type of writing is lacking, it doesn't mean that it's because she's not able to produce it. It's because there is this balance that mirrors this restraint and indulgence felt by the main character, and then we are feeling it as well because we want more. To that, I give compliments to the chef. Now, as I said before, the topic of appetites and dissatisfaction exposed by hungry women is not new. But I genuinely like how Hazel used this as a vehicle to also talk about class and family conflict, which, again, tale as old as time. But the way that these two are merged, I think it's done in a very clever and interesting way. Since without the merging of these two aspects, I feel the book wouldn't have been as memorable. And some people did not find it memorable. I just looked at reviews last night after I wrote my thoughts because I didn't bother even looking, and I was very much surprised that it didn't create the buzz that maybe some people were expecting. I don't know. I think that, as I said, since we are so bombarded with information and stories like this might be disregarded as white privilege, as frivolous, as not with high stakes. And I will touch on that when I talk about the ending. But I don't think that we can disregard the class dynamics here just by calling it privilege. If Piglet's family would have been all nice and perfectly working class, sweet, salt of the earth, it would have been very easy to just villainize Piglet for rejecting this type of living and her family for a family like kids that is not that great once you break the surface. And yet, her family is not perfect. Her family, again, they call her Piglet. Since this family is one of tension and one that doesn't understand these appetites that she has and ridiculize them, it's often the case that we are inclined to sympathize with Piglet. And for me, it's not necessary that I need to sympathize with a character to like it or to understand what the plot is trying to do. But it definitely creates a good conversation between what she's trying to appeal, what she is hungry for, what she decides to go for, and what she is left unsatisfied with. And all of these questions come back to me because of this conversation about class and family, which sadly I cannot go fully into detail without going into spoilers. But if you're going into this novel, I highly recommend you take a look at that. You keep your eye open for all of these descriptions, for example, of how she recognizes that kid it's not as effortless as she thinks he should be because of his breeding and his raising and his awareness of how things are supposed to be. Both of them are faking it and trying very much. And that's why at the beginning you think, okay, this couple, even though I don't agree with what they value, they are a good match because they both have the same necessity to prove that this picture of perfection is actually happening, is actually who they are. And that's why the secret is shattering, because the secret is not only of you make me feel like I cannot trust you, is a double breakage of the trust and also of the goal that they were trying to go for. And as I said before, overly hungry, overly ambitious female characters are often villainized for not wanting to conform to the way that they were. And sometimes when we have social mobility and class mobility, stories are by self-made men. And that is part of the American myth, right? To create your own fortune, the land of opportunities, etc. However, that is always a male story, not a female story. And where I feel this book lands flat is that the resolution is incomplete, since you are venturing, you as an, not as you the reader, but you as the writer, or you as even the narrative voice, open all of these avenues, open the story with a lot of tensions and releases, so that back to that balance of restraint and indulgence. And towards the big finale, I think that people find it flat because there is, for example, she doesn't light the house on fire, right? Like and not to be the fire and literature obsessed person that I am, but the big resolution, the big snap is not that big. It's something you would watch in a movie. And then it ends, and it ends very calmly, very domestically, even. And I feel like that causes some dissatisfaction because we expect a big explosion to take something serious. And we expect a big explosion for us to understand the full big statement. And what I feel that is I mean, obviously it must be very hard, again, debut novel, to go through this whole story that you're spinning all of these avenues and find out a way to close all of that, to wrap everything up. And I feel like the wrapping is a bit mild, not because I would need some big plot event happening, but I would like to have a good inner dialogue or conversation. What was it all about? What is happening next? More of a thesis argument towards the ending instead of just wrapping up a plot. Nice and tidy. However, I really enjoy reading novels of flawed characters. This is one that I liked. I took on a writing retreat, so this was my delight to read during nights and breaks. I do think that novels like this, with flawed characters, with complex conversations on class and family and whatnot, give space for more thought. So, with that in mind, let's go with what left a sour taste in my mouth. As I said, the ending, I can understand that. I it's not that necessary, and I feel like there's also a desire, I guess, to end in a happy note, it ends on friendship and ends on girlhood if you or womanhood if you might have it like that. But what really left a sour taste in my mouth is the way that disorder eating is treated. And yes, binge eating and obsessiveness over food and exercise is disorder eating. I think that when we think about disorder eating, we still think about anorexia and bulimia, which are part of disorder eating, of course. And binge eating is more as a normalized thing or of a weakness or of a non serious issue, but it is. Because of my personal connection to the topic and to disorder eating, I don't want to go too much in detail, but I feel that the binge eating and other disorder eatings that is mentioned in the novel, and I don't want to spoil anything, was done in bad taste. I think the topic was exploited for the benefit of the plot, for the benefit of the characters, to talk about this hunger, to talk about appetites, desires, pleasure. I get it. But then it was dropped. Then it was disregarded. This was just as a symptom of a woman's napping and not another issue that the main character have been dealing with her whole life, and not only her but people very close to her. So I think that it was done in a simplistic way. And you might be wondering, hey Isabel, you just said that you like how the author talked about hunger and appetites done in relation to class and family dynamics. You just said that you like that. Well, I did like it, but then I didn't expect for it to just be dropped without any forethought on how important these topics actually are. Both things can be true, okay? So this might be even just a trigger warning. I mean, it doesn't make the book impossible to read. At least for me, it is very triggering, the whole Piglet thing. But I would say the book exploited these topics and these issues without a lot of respect towards the end that made me want to take a full star out of it, actually. But then I thought, okay, that might be just my personal bias. And because of that, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 because I do think that balance with the narrative voice, as I keep mentioning, was brilliant. I love that. And I feel like that's very subtle and I haven't seen anyone talked about that so far. So yes, 4 out of 5. And I do recommend it. I do recommend it. Don't get me wrong. I just personal bias, personal traumas. And to close my review, I do want to talk about the cover. And we don't judge books by their cover. I know, I know. But take a good look at it. What do you think when you think about this cover? This is a UK cover. The US edition has a mouth-watering hamburger and it's really nice. And the back cover has just the plate with the crumbs. I think this image goes to also the novel being named Piglet. It deceives you into going back to your preconceived ideas on people and how they eat and what they eat. If you call someone a pig, you expect them to eat fast food, etc. I would like you to go read the book and then tell me if the cover shouldn't have been a croquembouche. Honestly. But that's it. You won't understand it until you read it. Great. So now you have to go read it, right? And that is all from me. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this review. And if you have read this book, please leave a comment down below. If not, let me know if you're interested. I would also want to ask you to subscribe because 90% of my views are from people who are not subscribed, which I don't understand. I don't know if you know, but subscribing is actually free. So that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Keep reading. And when you're not, follow me on all my social media linked down below. As you already know, I am Isabel and I will be back next week with another video. Bye.